Hi, and welcome to Doorways to Learning. It's a place where we open doors to educators all over the world who teach all different subjects, different age groups, different specialties, but have in common one thing: their dedication to help our young and older learners have a more effective learning experience, which includes emotional, physical, cognitive strategies, and frankly, even more importantly, those 21st century skills that will give our students the validity they need in the professional world. What I'm talking about are those skills that technology still can't do better than flesh and blood humans. That's what I want to dive in today. Not too deep, because you all have a lot to do today, but just deep enough so that the rest of the episodes you hear will have context. And that is what we need in life, right? Context. And speaking of context, how did I get into this? Why is all this important to me? Well, I'm not exactly sure, because I'm not exactly sure how I fell into this gorgeous world of education, but boy, am I glad I did, because it is soul-filling. I'd been working at a math institute in New York City right after college. Now that is a whole story in itself. I was working for a member of the Manhattan Project, that group that created the atomic bomb. So all of his friends would visit, and I'd have to find some way to smile while wondering how exactly they saw life. All right, another day, another examination of humanity. The point is, I needed a big change. And so after hitchhiking around the world, I came back to New York City briefly, did a stint planning parties in the city's nightlife, still found nothing to fill my soul. So I bought a pickup truck from a friend and headed west. Yes. My goal was to make it to the Pacific Ocean, dip my toe in the water, and head home again, thinking that New York was my home. And it turns out, no, it's Santa Fe, New Mexico. I crossed the border to New Mexico, dipping down into the mountains of Taos. And anyone who's been to Taos will understand what I mean by how special it was. I drove into one of the most unearthly, unbelievably gorgeous sunsets I've ever experienced in my life, and knew I had found my corner of the world. However, a creature of habit, like most of us are, I found office work in Santa Fe, similar to what I'd been doing in New York. So then I had to take a deep breath, knew this was not how my soul wanted to express itself, and signed up for a second bachelor's, this time in education. Now, this is the fun part, because the first time I walked into my own classroom was when I realized that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I'd done all the courses, including the required training, but my first internship was a really sought-after position at the Indian school where all the children from the local reservations came to study. On one of my first days, one of the boys told me I talked too much. So after that, my supervising teacher kept me close by her side, didn't say much herself. So essentially, all I learned was how beautiful silence can be in a classroom, but not much more. My second internship, equally useless, was at a private school for very privileged students. My supervising teacher had just become engaged to a much coveted bachelor from the jet set, so I still didn't learn anything really useful for the classroom, but I still know all the details of wedding planning for a high society event. So let's jump ahead 20 years or so, and I'll get back to all the interim adventures, but I want to get to the 21st century skills, because that's why you hit the play button today, right? Quickly, all right? Quickly, 21st century skills. This is what all my conversations are geared towards in the podcast with my guests, and what I'm most passionate about highlighting in the classroom, much more important than content. According to the World Economic Forum, why a business model is so interested in education. Again, a whole other absolutely fascinating conversation that turns out to make sense, but it's just very circular. So the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the LOMLOE in Spain, and in many other countries in Europe, they all agree that the following skills are absolutely imperative to embed in the learning environment. And this includes Finland, although don't tell Finland, Estonia is now a little bit higher in the PISA scores, but still, Finland is magical, love it, don't say anything negative about it. The 10 skills: problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordination with others, 5 more. Emotional intelligence, fairness in decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. Okay, now you have the context that's underlining all of my conversations and what I use in my workshops and what I tell the teachers. That content is important, but not as important as the underlying messages your students are getting. So you'll understand why I find so much value in the incredible guests that are generous enough to spend time on my podcast. And you're going to hear how, as I open one door after another to shine the spotlight on them, you'll get to know their missions and see that the 21st century skills, one of them at least, if not all of them, are included. So thank you so much for listening. This is my first solo podcast. I hope you push subscribe so that you hear a little more about my adventures, because some of them, they're really fun, and my incredible guests. See you soon for more, and have a just wonderful week. Bye.